What is up, everybody? It is Blake here with Trade Tracer. In this week's video, we are going to recap the S&P 500, get you prepared for next week, and also give you some of my favorite stock trading setups. Let's go ahead and recap some of our favorite trades from last week. This is some of what you can expect if you guys join the service. We had phenomenal, few different calls on Boeing, actually. You can see one of ours went for over 144%. It actually ran much higher. This is just the screenshot that I took to our members. Same thing with Gush. Had a phenomenal setup on the XOP index, and we decided to take a stab at Gush. You can see our average cost is 730. Well, our original entries were sub 6, and you can see the value of each contract is over 1380 now. So that actually hit a 90% club in one day. So that was a phenomenal trade for us as well. So these are just a couple of the trades that we had last week for us. So far, we've been doing absolutely phenomenal. One of our members is up over 400% in the past week. So if you guys are interested, make sure you go ahead and check out tradetracer.io and click the links in the description to get you some free signals. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get you started. As you guys know, we always start on the higher time frames. I typically like to start on the weekly. This is the time frame that I utilize for all of our investments. So the investment portfolio is a type of fund that's really designed for, your typical investor. It's the type of fund that you would be set up with if you were to go see a financial advisor. They're going to, say, hey, we need to allocate money here, here, and here, and we're not going to trade too much. We're going to let it sit. So this is the weekly time frame that I like to look at to make those decisions. And you can see I have the 50-week moving average. That's this moving average right here. And last week we confirmed price strength above the candle that broke that 50-week moving average, which is a very, very powerful sign. You can see I have this 306.84 highlighted. We'll go over that once we get to the daily time frame. But that was our breakout level to go ahead and add. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ lately has been relatively weaker, but on the grander scheme, you can see that the NASDAQ is making new all-time highs. Last week, we actually closed at a weekly all-time high close for the NASDAQ. I know it sounds crazy, but with all of this stimulus, it's just this market wants to move higher. So the NASDAQ is looking phenomenal, and when we go over some of our trades for the week ahead, you're going to realize that a lot of those trade setups are in the NASDAQ sector, and there's good reason for that. We're breaking out to new all-time highs, and I expect this to lead once again. Now, recently we've had some rotation into, some of the financials and industrials out of the major large cap tech stocks. But this week, I'm feeling that we're going to see some rotation back into those, and I'm going to show you why. So before we go into that, I want to go and recap the daily time frame here on the S&P 500. You can see this 50-week moving average is sloping higher, and we confirm that price strength above that 306.84. And once we confirm that price strength, we just started to rip much higher on the S&P 500. Now, so what am I in right now, and how am I approaching this next week? So those are some of the questions that I typically get. Right now, what we are in is Gush and QQQ. And we'll start with the QQQ. So we are in the NASDAQ fund, and that's the QQQ. And the reason that we entered this on Friday is because Friday we actually broke above this all-time high, the 237.47 mark on the QQQ, and closed above that breakout level. Okay, so one of the things I want to highlight is this raindrop bar chart. And this is, if you're not familiar with raindrops, it's specific to the type of charting platform that I use. But these raindrops, what it is, it shows you where the volume has traded. So you can see the majority of the volume traded above the breakout level. You can see below this breakout level, right, below this line, almost no volume traded down here. All right, and you can see this big fat area of the raindrop. That's where the majority of the shares traded hands. And now what this is telling you is that the majority of the shares traded hands above the breakout level, which it means there's demand up here. People are buying above the breakout level. Okay, so that's why we're long QQQ. So we do have an option on the QQQ because personally I believe that the NASDAQ is going to lead this next week because we just broke out. And some of the stocks that I expect to lead, which are on our focus list, include Amazon. Okay, so last week we had an attempt at Amazon, had a bad entry, and wound up taking a loss on it. But losses, as you guys know, is part of trading. The key is minimizing losses and maximizing those gains. Just like you saw, we had over 100% gainers on both the Boeing and the Gush calls. Now, Amazon, the reason that I like this trade setup, and you can see I have an alert set here for the 2500 level. Now that 2500 level is a closing high, okay, it's not quite a closing high, but it's 1 penny short of this candle's high, and there's the psychological resistance at 2500, okay? Now one of the things I want to showcase here is the volume by price. Now this is a very great tool that I like to utilize. If you guys have been following me at all, you guys know that I trade off of volume and price, and then finally is trend. So my first two indicators, volume and price, okay? That's what pays. So you can see if I anchor this volume by price, now what I'm doing here is I'm showing you from this date on March 16th, these are the lows Amazon put in from the recent coronavirus. From this date, where have the majority of shares traded hands? And you can see the majority have traded in this side volume bar chart right around the 2400 level. Now what this is doing is this is building a support base. Okay, you can see we've just chopped up here for quite a while, and you can see the majority of the shares have formed on this volume shelf, okay? And you can see we're just pushing off that volume shelf from last week. We held the 10 SMA all last week, and now we're making a move higher. If we can get above the 2500 level, which I think we do, provided the markets continue to move higher, I think Amazon's going to lead the market higher. Okay, so that's on our primary focus list for all of next week. Okay, so that's on my stock watch list is Amazon. Tesla is my next stock that's on my watch list. And if you guys trade Tesla, you know when it runs, it likes to rip really hard. Okay, so one of the things that I like about Tesla, we do have a fresh MACD bullish crossover. It's holding above the 10 SMA very nicely. And once again, you can see we had this volume shelf like I just showed you on Amazon. Same thing here, lots of volume. We broke through that volume. We actually took this trade. I know I didn't post it, but we took this trade and sold here. So we had a very nice gainer. I think those options went for almost 60%. So we took this breakout, and then we tried to add above this candle's high and got rejected. So when we get above 899, that's my trigger to go ahead and add long to Tesla. Okay, I think Tesla does become $1,000 stock very soon. So that's what I'm watching on Tesla. So Boeing was one of our awesome trades, and you guys can see that Boeing has just ripped higher. Okay, and once again, I want to point out the volume shelves. Okay, so this was this volume base, tons of shares traded hands in this zone right here, and then we finally broke above it on this candle here on May 27th. I posted that. That's when we originally got long. It was at 149 level. We broke above this VWAP. Now we added on this candle here, and then once we broke above this candle's high, which was 156.70, that's when we added once again. Scaled profit here, and unfortunately we missed out on this one because we had already sold out on everything. However, those calls went for over 150%, so you can't be too mad at yourself. So that was what we saw on Boeing. I do think Boeing has a lot of room left to run higher, but I hate to chase since we've already had the move. So I'd be looking for some sort of pullback to one of these, average volume by price layers that I have in here, and that would be an entry for me. But I'm not looking to try to chase Boeing right here. We already made our money on it. Time to move on. Finally, we're going to get into XOP. Okay, this is one of the trades that I had triggered for us on, was it Thursday? So I'm going to go ahead and anchor this from the most recent high. And this is what I saw here, okay, guys? I want to explain my trade here. What we saw from this most recent high, let me go ahead and take off some of these moving averages because I was watching the VWAPs, all right? So we had this volume shelf being created right around the 54 to the 52 range, and we weren't really giving that up. And price was respecting this anchored VWAP. You can see we broke above it and then kind of just chopped around, broke above it and then chopped around, and then you can see this has acted as support multiple times in this volume zone. This is the demand zone. I had a trigger set for 55.71, and when we broke above that on this candle on June 3rd, that was my trigger to go ahead and add long. And then this candle right here gave that price strength confirmation on top of this candle, and then the very next day we had this huge gap and run higher right into resistance, and we took some profit. Okay, now you can see this other volume shelf, this right here. This is my ultimate target, the 75 area. Okay, so that's the ultimate target. We have almost 8 weeks on these options, so we're already up over 90%. I do think this has much more room to run. Fresh MACD bullish crossover and moving higher into the next volume shelf. Okay, so let's wrap it back up with the S&P 500. Guys, to me, this looks very bullish. You guys know, if you've been following me, we're pretty well aggressively positioned in the investment portfolio. And we do have quite a bit of cash on the sidelines in our options trading account to go ahead and deploy for those trades like Amazon and Tesla and some of those high momentum setups. So make sure you guys check out tradetracer.io. If you like this video at all, make sure you give it the like and the thumbs up. And make sure you follow me on Twitter and also in Telegram. I'm going to be linking both of those below. So you guys take care, and I'll see you again on Monday.